Hello, everybody. This is Terry, Community Manager, here with special guest Monica Rincon, Fertility Awareness Method Instructor, talking about BBT, or your body's basal temperature, basal body temperature tracking. I just want to remind you, if you're on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching this after our live. And you can find Monica right in your app if you go to More, Schedule a Consultation, and look under FAM Instructors. As well, if you have any questions, we are live during the time of this recording. We'll answer any BBT questions live that we can. And we do plan to have a follow-up BBT video part 2. So if there are any questions we can't get to today, we'll work on those for next week. And if you have any fertility questions that are not BBT related, we do have a recently released community in your Premom app. And if you go to the Ask an Expert tab, you can get answers from our Premom experts there if you have other fertility questions. I think I've covered everything there. So let's go ahead and get started. Monica, if you want to jump in, let's talk about what BBT is.
Okay, thank you to everyone that is with us today. And I'm going to talk about the body basal temperature, but we want as well to hear from you so we can serve you in all your questions. So first, let's start with what it is and why it is important. Basal body temperature is a biomarker for fertility. It can tell us when you ovulate. Really, the key of body basal temperature tracking is that we can detect this spike of rise on temperature and will confirm us that you ovulate. Really, the body basal temperature has a shift during ovulation because as soon as the egg is released, as you can see here in this graphic, immediately this remaining body from the egg that it was released is going to produce progesterone. And progesterone rises your temperature a couple of degrees Fahrenheit. As well, BBT could help to know if you are pregnant because progesterone is required for the early pregnancy and is only produced by the remaining body in the ovary. And so the temperature should be continually high as soon as the rise occurred. Now, how we measure body basal temperature? We have to measure during all the menstrual cycle. Why? Because in that way, you can really detect when is the rise because there's a contrast as soon as the temperature is getting high. The most important is to have a very good thermometer. Now with technology, we have synchronized thermometers, which allow you just only to wake up and just take the thermometer and it will connect it with your phone and the temperature will be stored. And actually, as I'm going to mention later, the good thing is that it will save and store all your temperature and it will make you an average instead of doing it manually that we used to do it for many years. Now we can think and just only take the temperature and allow the app to get the baseline for you. So what happened during ovulation, there's a temperature shift. It's very small. It could be 0.2 or an average is 0.5 or to 0.8 of a degree Fahrenheit. The average is 0.65. So it's a lot comparing to the beginning of the temperatures during your fertile phase. The temperature shift is either on the day of ovulation or the day after. So really the key is that if you are tracking your BBT, you're going to pinpoint your day of ovulation, but it's post-ovulation. Sometimes that day is too late for achieving pregnancy. That's the reason that the fertile window is before ovulation occurs. It is 5 days before and the day of ovulation. How we know it's going to be the day of ovulation? Because using the LH, the rise and surge of LH, is telling us that you're about to ovulate, and the BBT will confirm that you ovulate. How we take the BBT? This is very important. You have to take it upon awakening, before any activity, any before drinking, eating, or smoking, always at the same time. The best is to set an alarm into your phone, especially during the weekend that we turn to sleep a little more. We know that 0.1 degree can be increased as each hour later that you're taking your temperature. For example, if you take it at 7 a.m. every morning, and on the weekend you're taking at 9 a.m., you already have a 0.2 degrees higher your temperature. So that's the reason that it's very important to be consistent. You need at least 3 to 4 hours of resting temperature. Resting temperature means lying on bed, resting. And again, it has to be always at the same time. Some women that work shift overnight, what they do is that as soon as they arrive at home, they take the temperature because they're taking it every day and they are already in the resting period. The most recommended in all the studies that are made using BBT is doing it orally. You can do it vaginally and rectal, but you have to do it, be consistent. You cannot switch. And always vaginal and rectal are higher than the oral. So that is very important. We recommend oral because all the studies has been done with oral temperature.
I'm going to pipe in for a minute. Can we go back for a second?
Sure.
I really appreciate what you added here. This is great extra information. The range that you have here for the temperature, it's nice to see like how it can be low and how it can get a little bit higher. It's obviously very small, but there's a little bit of a range there. And so the temperature shift is the day after ovulation, really, usually, right? It could be at the end of it, but it's, and I have seen some women go a day after, and some go as many as 3 days after. Maybe we could talk about that in the next video, why that sometimes happens.
Yes, we call a second phase, and that's what happened. Because really, I'm going to bring this one. So what happened is that, you know, this is a mature egg. If this egg is inside, is what we call a follicle, okay? This is the ovary. So the LH has to come and just kind of burst and pop up out that egg. But sometimes it takes like, because the hormones are sent by pulse, you know, they are releasing by the brain or the ovary by pulse. That's the reason there is fluctuation in the temperature, and there's fluctuation sometimes in the surge, that sometimes is high, and later there's a peak because there's a surge. So sometimes for some women, we know that like 85% could be doing ovulation after 1 day after the LA surge. Some of them will take a little couple more hours, like 36, and some of them are on the tail. They can take 48 hours. So it would be the next day when really the surge. And really, this is biological. This is not like a clock. It's always the body's trying to send the amount that is necessary to be released, but sometimes just one try is enough. Sometimes it has to send a little more pulses of LH to release the egg, and that's what happened.
So sometimes it's related to the surge.
Exactly. Yes, we know that there's different patterns for surge. It could be even 2 peaks. So
right.
Yeah. So it's not. It is natural. Yeah. Is the okay? So how we chart your BBT? So once you're taking your temperature every day at the same time, we know that your menstrual cycle can be divided in 2 phases. The follicular phase, which is the follicle, the immature egg is trying to produce estrogen and trying to get this little egg ready to be pop up. So that is what is the follicular. So when you're charting your menstrual cycle, for example, with Premom, what happened is that you're taking your temperature every day. It's going to graphic or set up the points. So in the follicular phase, here is the BBT. There's always very low temperatures, okay? And we need to take it every day. As soon as the LH, the peak is detected, the surge, we know that ovulation should occur 24 or 36 hours after the next day. And if you see here, exactly, you see the rise in the temperature, the spike in the temperature. And we need to do an average of the lower temperature before the rise. And that's what we call the cover line. Okay? And whatever is the cover line up to that cover line is what it is considered a rise in temperature that indicates ovulation. Okay? So that's what we need. We need to chart the temperature every day in order that we have a graphic and we can see visually when the cover line is set up by the app that the temperature rise. Okay? What are the factors? The cover line, yeah.
It's a nice reminder of the ovulation has already occurred once that cover line appears.
Exactly. Perfect. So what are the factors that can affect to see this beautiful kind of difference between the follicular phase and, as soon ovulation occurs, the luteal phase? Because we need to pinpoint this is the key. So stress can affect that. The lack of sleep, because it's a resting temperature. So if you're not sleeping, your brain is, thinking, so there's no resting. Exercise as well. Alcohol, infection, oversleeping. As I mentioned, it can add 0.1 degrees every hour that you sleep more, comparing to the time that you need to take your temperature. Traveling, time zone shifts, because it's already 1 hour ahead or before, or medications and thyroid problems as well. Okay, now we're taking the temperature every day. Now how we're going to interpret this BBT that the app is providing for us. So again, as soon as the LH peak is detected and the rise of temperature is detected by the thermometer connected to the app, is going to give you the cover line. Okay, the cover line is made or is calculated by an average of the 6 previous temperatures before the rise of the temperature. So they will take, for example, this is the rise on temperature. It will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in this case. So 6 of this temperature divided 6 is going to give us an average. And that average, we added 0.1 degree, and that is what the app set up the cover line. This is the way. Okay, everything that is over that cover line, it means that ovulation has occurred because progesterone has been released. Okay, this is the reason that we always take the rule 6-3. 6 temperature before the rise and confirm with 3 temperatures above the cover line. Okay, so here we are really thinking that ovulation has occurred. Okay, it's post, because the rise occurred 24 hours or 48 hours after the release of the egg has occurred, and the egg only survived 12 to 24 hours. So that's the reason that the timing of the intercourse is right the days before the LA surge or LH peak and the day after, because that day after is when we think is the day of ovulation, and the next day there will be the rise of temperature.
Wonderful. Now, and technology is so great because now you don't have to worry about the 6 and the 3 so much. The app will just chart it all for you. It'll, as soon as it recognizes that BBT spike after that 6 low, 3 high, then it will just form that cover line for you. But it's all about what Monica said, making sure you're temping every day so you have enough temperatures, and making sure it's at the same time and trying to keep your conditions as consistent as possible.
Yes, I want to bring as well that during the menstruation, the temperatures could be high, a little higher, because we can bring progesterone from the previous cycle. So sometimes during menstruation temperature high, is that okay? Because the app is going to take the 6 previous, but if you already have a complete cycle, it will make the average and it really knows when your temperatures are rising. So that's what is good when you have an app already doing all the work for you. There's something that is very typical to call biphasic shift or pattern. What is exactly it? What happened is that as soon as you have your low temperatures in your fertile window, you know that the app will detect by your average of your cycle length. It will detect when will be probably your fertile window. That fertile window is when your temperatures are low. So just before is going to happen ovulation, there's a dip in temperature. It goes down. And that's what we call the first dip in temperature. There's a dip in temperature, like you see here, and later it goes up. Okay? And that's what we call the biphasic shift. Okay? It's just right here. And here are the arrows that I have here is just to count the 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the temperature that many years ago, before we have this app, we have to do it by hand and, do the summatory divided 6 is equal a temperature. You take 1 point, you do the cover line, and you confirm your ovulation. And you take 3 temperatures to confirm that ovulation has occurred. Okay? Now, there's another patterns that it can be helpful, but this is not clear cut in science. Some women have it, like 20% of the women have it, not all of them. And if you don't have it, it doesn't mean that you're not pregnant. This is something that happens for some of the women. So we can have different patterns. We can have we can have what we call a slow rise, like we have in this example. Temperature goes slow, every time goes a little bit more, okay? Different the dip before the ovulation, that is what we call the biphasic shift. It's an abrupt rise. Now, this is sometimes called the seesaw because it's like a pattern that goes like this. You can have as well temperature that the same day is the same. It doesn't have the dip. And still, we have the rise in temperature and it go a little bit like in steps, the step rise. Always we know that this is the first shift, the one that the app determined with the cover line. After 7 to 9 days, you can have a dip again in temperature, and on day 8 or 9, you have a second shift. So there's more rises of temperature. That it means that the corpus luteal is producing more progesterone because the implantation has occurred. This is what we call the triphasic pattern. Okay? Triphasic means a second shift with a dip. You see there was, so, this cover line is too low. So it should be, this is the first cover line, and this is, I just did a second cover line, just to explain that in the second, there's another dip and again goes up. Okay? This is the first cover line. This is the same graphic. This is the first cover line for the ovulation, and this is the second one for the implantation. Okay? There's more progesterone, so it goes higher. Okay? Some women, as soon as they see this second shift in temperature, They do the pregnancy test. This occurs after 10 or 7 days post-ovulation. It could be negative, or you just wait until 14 days post-ovulation to do a ACG or a pregnancy test. Okay? So this is what we call implantation dip. It went a little low and again goes up. Okay? Okay. It is important that there are many fluctuations in BBT, and we have to account of those. Those are the disadvantage. Exactly, if you have stress, if you have all those kind of things that are part of our life, you know, holidays, so they're going to be alcohol, whatever it is. So it makes difficult to have a very accurate BBT, but the app is a way to help you as well. Women that have night shifts, they are working, they are not resting all overnight. So what they need to do is, as soon as they arrive at home, they take the temperature. So it has to be consistent always at the same time to take the temperature when you're waking up during the night. So sometimes other babies that are teething and you just need, or they are sick, those days is better to skip the temperature than not take it into an account. It is important always to track your BBT, especially to confirm your ovulation, or what we call a post-ovulatory indicator if you are trying to conceive. Is very important. As well, is very important for any woman because ovulation is the fifth sign of health in a woman. So the only way that is consistent, is easy, and is not so expensive is using BBT as a biomarker for fertility. The advantage is that one. It is now very accurate with these thermometers to be able to detect your ovulation by temperature. It's very reliable and accurate, and to monitor the early pregnancy. As Terry mentioned, synchronized thermometers can calculate your cover line because they do the rule 623 to confirm ovulation, and they can predict your cover line based on your previous cycle as well. So they really know exactly what are your temperature. That's what I have for now, and we're just waiting for questions.
Wonderful. And we don't have any questions right now, but I had a couple of follow-ups I wanted to go over from your presentation.
Sure. You want me to share again the screen?
Oh, no, that's okay.
Okay.
You can just
okay.
talk right here. One is, I know we get questions a lot about those dips.
Yes.
And what I understood, tell me if this is what you understand too, is overall, the most important thing you want to watch for is that cover line. Some people are going to get the ovulation dip or the implantation dip, as you said, not very many. So it's really like, we're not looking for perfectly straight lines. I know me personally, I do have some up and down going on, and I know that's, from what I understand, that's pretty common. Can you just touch a little bit more on that?
It's pretty common because the release of the hormones are not in a slow release, like in a pump, like in a syringe, just a little bit. No, it's surge, it's pulse, because they're producing for example, in the corpus luteum, and they are released. The same, the brain release is pulsative. We call it in the clinical term, pulsative. So that's the reason that when we want to be consistent, always the doctor said, you know, you have to take for your cholesterol, it has to be 12 hours of fasting, because that's the way that we turn to have normal range. So here is the same. It's consistent. If you take it at the same time, even those fluctuations, you see it bigger because you have a digital thermometer who do an average and taking difference and 0.01 difference in temperature. You know, so this is not a fever thermometer. So this difference, we see it bigger, but really they are not that big. And that's what it is the releasing of the hormone who makes those fluctuations, because we are biological a system. We are a holistic system, a human being. Yes.
I also really appreciate that you touched on the different ways to use the thermometer, because I know that question comes up a lot, oral versus vaginal. Can you talk a little bit more about the studies that are in support of orally temping?
Yes, oral, using the temperature is actually, we can get back to the 1920s when they started, and the German scientists were the ones at first to study the temperature. So everything was orally. We need to make sure that at the beginning they used these glass thermometers with mercury. It was based on that, but it's still in that because they could see the difference in the temperature. You can move to vaginal or you can move to rectal. You have to be very careful with the rectal, but you can move, but you have to be consistent, because if you compare oral with vaginal, you can't, because vaginal is higher, 1 or 2.1 or 0.2 degrees higher or more. The same rectal, because it's an internal temperature as well, more. So you need to be consistent. Some women like it vaginal, they can use it, but it has to be at the same time, the same conditions, in order to be accurate and precise. The studies that has been done is always oral temperature. And we have a very robust method for planning your family naturally that is called syntothermum. So it's based on cervical mucus, cervical position, and temperature. And it's taught by the couple-to-couple league. That is a couple who teach another couple. But it's really good for postponing and for achieving pregnancy. And it's based on oral. We have another one that is called the Fertility app as well. And they are the ones who have been described this second shift or triphasic shift or pattern in pregnancy. And they did a study. They noticed that 50% of the women that were doing even the BBT until the placenta is developed, that is 12 weeks, they noticed this deep implantation and this second shift only in 50% of the cases. So it doesn't mean that even you can be pregnant, and it doesn't mean, if, as you said, if you don't have this pattern, it doesn't mean that you're not pregnant or the implantation hasn't occurred. But when you see that you have your ovulation, your temperature, your fluctuation, and close to the time of menstruation, you see that the temperature is going down, for sure, pregnancy didn't occur, or progesterone just declined. And that is another element that support that you should confirm the presence of progesterone with progesterone strips, or you're lacking progesterone. If you're trying to conceive, yeah.
So I know another concern based on what you're talking about is if your temperatures are above the line, but then you start to see a dip.
Yes.
Do you need to see a dip below the cover line to be thinking that your cycle is out, or is any kind of dip a concern?
Yes. You can have dips, but those dips could be like go up. But if it's those dips going down gradually, it means that this corpus luteal that I show you, it doesn't produce more progesterone. You know that as soon as implantation occurs, the ACG, that is the hormone that the embryo is produced, like saying, I'm here, I'm going to take now my mom's body and I'm going to turn it, towards, sustaining this pregnancy. This hormone is like kicking again, trigger the corpus luteal to produce more progesterone. And that's the reason. So you need to see that is increasing. Anything, a dip that goes deep, deep down, it means progesterone went really down. Yeah. You can have dip, but again, up.
Consistent drop.
Yes. And the good thing will be, for example, if you can get some progesterone strips, just to check until when the progesterone is positive and when they get, again, negative. So what happened is that we know that in increasing progesterone, even 5 picograms per milliliters, or started on day of ovulation, post-ovulation 3, it should be going up. On day 7 or 9, that is when they say implantation, if pregnancy hasn't occurred, is the time that it start going down. So we need to know if that at that time progesterone is still positive or it was not positive. Okay. But some doctors, in some ways, you can go to your doctor and just say, can you send me a progesterone test? I just need to know what is my level, because my temperature is showing that I'm lacking on progesterone, and I use the days that the timing of intercourse was right. And that's what you have to tell the doctor. I'm pretty sure that I used the days that I were right. So why is coming down?
Key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up there then. I do see some people are on. So if you're watching this live or the recording, we are going to have a follow-up BBT video. I know you have some more advanced BBT questions that we may not have covered in this video. So please comment those below wherever you're watching, and we'll have another video with Monica going deeper into BBT. So thank you very much, Monica, again. We always love having you on. Absolutely. And again, everybody, Monica is in your app under More and Schedule a Consultation under Fertility Awareness Method Instructor. So if you have specific questions about your chart, you can find her there. And if you're watching afterward on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.